If you knew me before, you wouldn't even look my way. If I had the nerve to speak, you wouldn't hear what I say. Time has come and gone so fast, we're not who we used to be.
And welcome back to Sullivan's Unheard Voices. I'm here with Juli Ray. I really appreciate you being here today. One of the videos I saw recently was about you testifying in front of a couple of local councils about the importance of what you got going on.
Yes, yeah. Are you talking about Kaiser?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
How did that come to be?
I mean, I've testified in front of Kaiser City Council, Salem City Council, legislators. It's actually part of the work that I do. And so, part of it was somebody asked me if I wanted to come accept that proclamation. And in my mind, we can talk about it or we can kind of be about it. And I think I've lived in Kaiser long enough to know that we're not always living up to what we're proclaiming, and I just felt that was necessary.
And I really appreciate that from that perspective of, so I'm really involved in the disability community.
Yeah.
And I really resonate with what you were just saying right now. Like, we've been talking about this stuff for so long.
Yeah.
Like, why can't we do something about it instead?
Yeah.
And so how did you come across and start the nonprofit that you started?
Yeah, so we got started in 2020. And, one of the things that I noticed was, there was just no familiarity with the Black community. So I think I saw a lot of people, resonating with what they saw on the news. There was like this fear, especially with people like that have known me, so it was just a really strange time. And for me, it was like, we're always scared of what we don't know. We're scared of what we
100%.
don't have any experience with. And so we started out by doing, I think we went to 117 rural cities. And we would just pull up on any given day and play music and say hi to folks and, banner wave and bring resources. And so many people actually came up to us and were like, we've never met a Black person in real life. We've never had a conversation, or we got, wow, I'm the only Black person in town and this is so special, right? And so we kind of got started that way. And as we kind of built in recognition, we were like, how can we, keep this going? And how can we continue to bring joy? How can we continue to create self-sufficiency and sustainability within our community? And so we've done quite a few projects. We've done a doula certification program. We've done our urban growing program, where we provided families with indoor grow systems to help them. And then we also have our free garden. We do a Christmas program every year. We do a Halloween program every year. And we do a lot of mutual aid as well. Yeah.
And I really appreciate that perspective of it too, because it's one of those things with the cost of food these days.
Yeah.
That if you're trying to eat healthy, it's really unattainable.
Absolutely.
And so the concept of a community garden, or a place where you can get fruits and vegetables and things that are freshly grown, is huge.
Yeah, and what's been really fun is watching people learn alongside us, because I'll be honest with you, I have family in farming and agriculture, but it's never been my jam. And truthfully, I don't even know what, I was just like, you know what? We're going to do this.
Yeah.
And found our location. And when I got there, I remember looking and going, I don't know. I don't think we're going to do this. I don't think we can. It was literally my height in weeds. And I was like, okay, I don't even know how to get this to dirt, right? So we started from there 2 years ago. And this year we've done about 3,500 pounds of free food. So we've done over a ton of free vegetables. We're also bringing things that we don't have access to. So cucamelons, Armenian, cucumber, like we have so many different variants of veggies as well, that people are getting to try new things. We offer, on our online our socials, we'll do cooking lessons. So we'll teach people how to use what we're providing to them. And so it's really been cool to watch people go, oh, I didn't know I could do this. Or, oh, I didn't know that was a vegetable, And so and watching the kids play around the farm. And really there's just such a sense of community. It's our space. It feels good. And there's just a lot of joy there.
And especially like now more than ever, we need those community spaces.
Definitely.
Like, it seems like so often we are pushed against each other for whatever reason. But the reality is we need to rely on each other way more now than ever.
Absolutely.
Because things are going off the rails in a lot of places.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's really true. And I think one of the things that I've known is like a common denominator is always food, right?
Yeah.
Like breaking bread with somebody is always a special thing. It's always like a sense of love. And if you know me, if I care about you, I'm cooking for you. I want to feed you, and I want to wait and watch for the, reaction. And I think that's just something that's really universal, is that care. And so it's been incredible to watch. Just the amount of people that are taking part. Our volunteers are literally top tier. Black Joy, our members, our board, all of them have just given 125%. And just every single one of my visions, they're like, let's make it happen. And I come up with some wild stuff, you know what I mean? So they just keep making it happen. Yeah.
But how cool is that to have like take us through how you felt when you started seeing the community come back and give you support like they have?
Oh, it's been huge. I think that you just named something that's been really incredible. So, a lot of folks in the community know a little bit about my story, but I definitely didn't grow up with the kind of support I'm experiencing now, right? And so when I first got started in 2020, it was really me finding my voice, right? And as like this has grown and people have been with us now for 5 years, right? And they've followed along with me. And if I'm sick, they'll be like, hey, there's a goodie bag on your door. Or there's like, and I think that support and that love and watching, we kind of cater to women, because I found that women leaders don't get the same mentorship and encouragement. And so to watch women from across the city, really engaging with each other, showing up for each other, just having that safety net where there's a lot of people, like they're talking about loneliness epidemics. There's a lot of people that aren't feeling that, and that there's so many people that are just kind of disconnected from that reality. And I mean, we're not supposed to be, we were never made to be singular animals, we're pack guys. And so to watch that has been probably one of the most rewarding things about Black Joy, really.
Yeah, one of the things I've said countless times on this podcast already is this idea of rugged individualism is not real.
No.
Like, we rely on so many people for everything, right? Where somebody built our phones, somebody built our houses or our apartments, somebody built our cars. So, like, this idea that you need to do everything on your own, it's an impossibility.
And to be really honest, I don't know. At this point, it's kind of funny because I do remember feeling like just really like a void, like a deep loneliness for a very long time. And it's so funny because now I think about it and I can't even remember that, right? Like I can remember it, but it's like, it doesn't resonate with me in the same way. And so, I feel really blessed and really lucky in that the right people have always come at the right time. And I think that's how I know we're doing the work that we're supposed to be doing is, I can post something and go, yo, I have a family that needs and X, Y, and Z. And it literally shows up in no time. I think the most time we've ever waited is like a couple days. And like that is truly, I think what all this is about. Like, like my job is to love people. Yeah. And I found like that's really my purpose and my job, and just to watch that expand and grow has just been incredible.
And there is this narrative out there that paints and I see this, like, and I hate that I see this still to this day.
Yeah.
When I try to talk to people about the reality of poverty,
Yeah.
and the reality of people that need things,
Yeah.
what I hear from people is ridiculous.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's not freaking true. You know that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, so can you sort of talk a little bit about, like, the fact that poverty doesn't care about race or religion?
Yeah, it
or
really
any
doesn't.
of that stuff?
I think poverty doesn't. I think, there obviously, and I'll just be frank, I think there is a race component, to generational poverty. But that said, it really doesn't. And I think that's where people find themselves alienated, and that, that loneliness, and that, that never being able to quite come up, right? Like, and we're seeing it more and more and more and more. Like, to be really honest, I feel like I've somehow managed to make a pretty decent living in the last few years working, doing lobbying work. And even now, I always thought that if I made the kind of money that I make now, like, I would be buying boats and stuff, like, I would be like, heck yeah, I'd really have it going on. And the reality is I'm one paycheck away from a very bad time. And so I think about that, and I think about, growing up, I lived with my grandmother. We had the old food, still, like the big food stamps, the books, and
Oh yeah.
yeah. And I remember how hard it was. And but what I also remember about that is, if she didn't have it, my aunt had it. If my aunt didn't have it, my other aunt had it, and there was really this familial, we're gonna take care of it together. Right. She doesn't have church shoes. Okay. We're all putting in the pot. And so I think that's something that has always stuck with me and really resonated. And I think that folks in poverty, we would do much better to realize that we are much closer to houselessness than we are to being billionaires.
100%. 100%.
Much closer. And we need each other desperately. And when I say the word desperate, I mean that. Like, we need each other for our mental health. We need each other for, just like I said, that if I don't have it, somebody's got it and is willing to share with me. And so, yeah, I mean, I think that's the other thing, is people really don't have an understanding of poverty. They think it's just something you can pull yourself up by the bootstraps. I hear that all the time.
But do you know the entire quote?
No.
So this is the part that cracks me up, because every time somebody's like says, pull yourself up by your bootstraps,
yeah,
said, you have obviously not read that poem, because in the next paragraph it talks about how it's impossible to pull yourself up by your own bootstraps.
I mean, your own weight. I mean, it makes sense. Yeah.
It's just gonna say
science.
No.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Actually, that's funny that I haven't. Now I want to go look at it, and it's going to be a rabbit hole, I'm sure, of mine. But, but yeah, I mean, that's exactly right. I keep hearing this, where, you have to earn everything, and I think inherently, as a human being, you don't, and you shouldn't. Like, we are inherently worthy of love. We are inherently worthy of the things that keep us going day to day. And so I think that's just something I've definitely noticed a lot more of in the last, like, I'm dating myself here, but probably the last 20 years or so, where people just, I don't need you, you don't need me, I don't know my neighbors, I don't need to know my neighbors. It's like, and I just feel very much differently.
It's so strange, because, like, I come from Seattle,
mm-hmm.
and the Seattle freeze is real. Because, like, I lived in the same house for like 11 years and didn't know a single one of my neighbors. Mm-hmm. And so to come down to Salem, Kaiser area and just, like, be friendly to people, like, people smile at each other, people will back up into the driveway to let you cross on the street. It's like, it's a different kind of vibe down here.
And see, I grew up in North Carolina, so I'm coming from that times 10, right?
Yeah.
Like, we'll throw a little shady, bless your heart or whatever. There's a lot of shade being thrown. Don't get me wrong, but that there is just a kindness and a warmth that I think the Southerners do so well. I
crave it and I miss it.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. Because, like, I have I've been on a journey of kindness for about 3.5 years now.
Yeah.
And
isn't it dope though?
Oh, my
it's
life
great,
has been
right?
so much better.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's one of those things where, and I wasn't unkind before.
Sure.
I was unkind to myself.
Yeah.
And I kept myself sort of limited and isolated, didn't have a lot of friends, didn't really get out much.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to start being kind like I remember being when I was 20.
Yeah.
And just everything has sort of cascaded ever since.
Yeah. It really does. It changes things. And I think, the other night I was in some weird situation and this lady who apparently I was nice to like 10 years ago or something was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "I don't think so. And I'd really like to go home," And she was like, "I got you. Get in," And she was like, "I don't know if you remember me, but my father had passed and you were so kind to me." And it really again, it just resonates with me. And I try to teach my kids this, but who knows? They're teenagers now, so who knows if they're getting it.
Right.
But be kind to everybody. Number one, you never know who you're going to need. But beyond that, life is so hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just so hard. And you don't know what people are going through or how that one kindness that you've just given them will turn around whatever thinking they had in their mind, whatever they were about to go do. I know that that's happened to me. I know that I've been in really dark places in my life, and it's always someone that's just being genuine with me, giving with me, loving with me, that turns the tide every time.
Without fail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the kindness to yourself, I love that you brought that up too, because that's a big one. I think honestly, there's so many people that are mean because that it starts there, right?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess I didn't realize I read a book. It was Man's Search for Meaning.
Okay.
And it was one of the most horrific, sad yet inspiring books I've ever read in my entire life. And that was what sort of opened the door for me. Like, oh, why am I giving myself such a hard time in this situation?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh wait, we tend to be hypercritical of ourselves by nature.
Yeah.
And it's a fight to stop that. I mean, I literally had to come up with a plan to say no. Every time I had a negative thought, I had to stop where I was going and say just no.
Yeah, you kind of have to hold your thoughts captive and be like, okay, nope, not doing that. And that's something I still to this day am really working on. Okay, I've got to also give myself grace.
Yeah.
I'm pretty decent at giving other people grace, and honestly, my best friend would tell you probably too much. But I remember that I was a jerk. I remember I was not a nice person, and a lot of that was learning to forgive myself, learning to be kind to myself, learning that you only know what you know, right? And you can only do and make decisions out of what you know, and everybody else is doing that as well. Right.
100%, yeah.
So everybody's understanding is quite fluctuated, and that grace is just. I think it's also it's helpful if you're able to give grace. It makes you a lot less irritable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Context breeds compassion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the unintended side effect of me being kind to myself and kind to others is I'm no longer on any medication.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
I love it.
I didn't realize how depression is kind of tied to that negative self-talk.
Yeah. And it's tied to being lonely.
Yeah.
I think about that. Every Sunday, my family and I would have, we would have Sunday dinner, right? And that was the happiest time for me. And then all of a sudden, I'm in this, we move out here. That's kind of gone. And my behavior, and I was a kid, but my behavior kind of changed. Everything kind of changed. And I think that was a huge part of it. When you're used to having a village and all of a sudden you have no village and there's no one that's, empowering you or telling you you're good or telling you that, again, you are inherently worthy of these things. There's nothing you need to do to deserve these things. You start to forget, right? And it's really important to have those things and especially to be able to give it to yourself. Yeah.
And it extends also outwardly.
Yeah.
Right? Because I think right now our communities need that kindness more than ever.
Yeah, definitely.
Because one of the things that I've seen, in the last, I would say, 9 months to a year, because I drive by on the way to this podcast, the Kaiser Food Bank line. And that line is freaking huge.
It's getting wild
now.
Yeah.
And it's one of the things that I'm like, okay, how do we support?
Yeah.
And so, like, thinking about it from that end, for people listening and people sort of say, why is it important for people to get involved and support the community back?
Yeah, I think it's important for a lot of reasons. I think, number one, again, we're all in a similar situation, but this rugged individualism, this, whatever, has got us convinced that somehow at least we're not that guy, or at least I'm not. And the reality is like, we kind of are all in the same boat. And when you are a part of communities, sometimes you're up, sometimes you're down. Either way, somebody's got you. And I think that's why, right? Yeah. Is like that reciprocal, reception of love is really important. The other reason is we have to stop waiting for people to do this for us, right? I speak to a lot of legislators. I'm very politically involved. I speak to a lot of folks. I speak with a lot of community organizations. And I hate to say this, but like, no one's coming to save us, and we have to be the ones that take care of each other. We have to learn that is an integral part of what has gone wrong, right? Like, that's an integral part of this. And it's imperative that we start to come to this understanding that we can do it. We are capable. We do have what it requires. And what's that saying? Many hands make light work.
Yeah.
Right. So that's a lot of it too. Is like, you can struggle by yourself, or you can get in community and go get loved on, right? And find your people and be weird. Like, I'm a weirdo. I'm a weird person. So I found my weirdos, right, where I don't have to mask. I don't have to have severe ADHD. I don't have to do those things. And it's been incredible, right? So I think there's a lot of reasons, but I think majorly, no one's coming.
And I'm starting to get the feeling that more and more people are coming to that realization.
Oh yeah.
Because you're absolutely right. Like, if you hear the messaging coming, and this is both parties, like, I'm not hearing, how are we going to take care of people who have medical needs? No. I'm not hearing, how are we going to take care of food prices and food scarcity?
No.
I'm not hearing, how do we uplift people in marginalized communities that have been suffering for generations and generations and generations. Yeah. It's the same problem, and we're not doing anything different.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, like, we can look at the two parties. I think, one is corporatist and one is capitalist. It's the same thing. And I think ultimately, what I know and what I've learned is, I can't wait for you. And where I am hearing these conversations being had is with mutual aid groups. Where I am hearing these conversations being had is with community organizations and nonprofits. Where we are hearing these things are among community members, right? So you're always going to have your negative Nellies that are just going to complain and whatever. That's a thing too, I guess. But there's many more people that, once they realize the power of community, want to remain in community. And I think that's I've been kind of talking about this with others. It's really important to learn how to be a villager if you want to have a village.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that requires that give and take. That requires, being able to be called out. That requires, a lot of things that we would find in a functioning family, right? Like, we have to be able to show up for others as well. So I think that's what makes it hard for people to get in community, is they either don't know how to show up for people, they're not willing to learn how, or it seems too difficult.
And the one thing that I struggle with on a day-to-day basis is that there's no pathway into media for the nonprofits and the good works.
Yeah.
Like that's the piece that's missing. Like they don't cover it in the news. They don't talk about it, and like our shows are built for war and death. And it's like, why can't we have shows that highlight amazing people doing amazing things for the community? Because a lot of people, I think, would get more involved if they knew things existed.
Yeah, and I think there's truth to that. I also think when you get lonely enough, you'll look, right? When folks start losing things, they look. And it's unfortunate that that's how people come to that realization at their not best. But I think we've had media, we've had a lot of that, but I think people's perception of, the nonprofit structure, depending on who you're talking about, is not always positive, right? Like I keep hearing this like nonprofit industrial complex. I keep having, and there's some reality to that. Like I'm not gonna BS, there's some reality, but by and large, we're talking about people like myself, or talking about people that like I know that are making it work out of the trunk of their car and $1 in a dream, right? Like we're not $1 million nonprofit. And I think that's, like people have this negative perception where if you're helping a marginalized community, well, why not me? Right. So you always we've gotten that quite a bit. Can
I pause you there for a second? Yeah. What do you mean by that?
Yeah. So we, obviously we're Black Detroit, Oregon. Yeah. There's not a lot of spaces for Black folks in the Salem-Keizer area. We try to make that a priority. We're not going to turn anyone away, but we do make that a priority. And I think, we've gotten news coverage where they're helping folks of color eat fresh produce. And I've literally had people message me infuriated. And their first assumption is that if they needed help, we wouldn't also help them, right? So I think that's their assumption. But then I answer like, hey, if you're hungry, come on down, you can volunteer and we'll be happy to send you home with a bag of produce, But I think the natural assumption is if you see somebody getting something, that means you're not getting something. And I don't think that that's reality. It's just not reality, actually, especially when you look at the numbers and you look at the amount of help that is specific to other groups or other folks are, by and large, they are the largest recipients. So we see these things, and then I've had people literally on, I can't even remember what holiday it was, but I was like, baby, don't you have anything else to do? But they looked up my number, probably on the business registry or something, and called me a racist. Went to the left. And was like, well, that's racist what you're doing. And I was like, yeah, A, I don't have time to explain racism to you, but B, that's not a thing. And for me anyways. And also, if you're hungry, just say that, and if you're not, why does this bother you? Why would feeding anyone bother you? Right?
And that's why I wanted to bring it up, because like every time I hear something like that, it breaks my autistic brain. And I'm like, I don't understand. Like, where are you coming from with this? Like, help me here. Like, I would love to sit somebody like that down and kind of follow their thought process.
Yeah, it's just literally, and I think it's from people. Is that
like a scarcity mindset?
It is. It's absolutely a scarcity mindset, 100%. Or it's like, it's like when people talk about student loans, right? They're like, well, I paid all mine. It's like, okay, well, you also paid yours in 1987 when going to college was $2,000, bro. Further, just because someone else suffered, would you want someone else to do that? You know what I mean? So I think that's what breaks my brain, is like, I don't have it in me to be like, oh, I didn't get it, you shouldn't get it. That's just not how my mind works. And it's scarcity, it's fear. And it's actually kind of ridiculous, because I've had some of we had this dude pull up, and he was in I think he was in a Mercedes-Benz, and one of our folks were out there, and he was like, hey, are you guys selling corn or something? And the volunteer's like, they don't sell anything. And they're like, what? They're like, no, they give it away. And he's like, well, I don't understand that. You know, like, what? Yeah, we don't sell anything. We do all this to give it away, like, freely, right? And so some of that is just like these conversations that we have are really like, we love everybody, man. But here's what we know is that a lot of folks in our community are not going to go seek outside help. They're not going to go do these things because these have not been safe outlets or avenues for them.
Oh. If people like really understood and learned about some of the historic oppression out there with our state agencies,
it's
you
terrible.
would just be like, what?
I mean, when you look at DHS's own website, it says that they take Black and Indigenous children at a much higher. I mean, the rate is wild,
astronomical.
And if they're admitting this on their own website, right? Imagine a Black mom or an Indigenous mom who can't feed their child. Do you think they're going to go to a state agency and say, I can't feed my child? Absolutely not. No. And so we are happy to be there to fill in those gaps. We're happy to be there to say, okay, hey, you might be in an apartment, but we have this thing for you where you can grow at least a little bit of fresh produce for yourself, at least a little bit of something, right? So we can help to, at least just add a little something. And I think that's all people need sometimes. It's just that one thing. Like, I've had people message me and go, oh my gosh, me and my kid are eating these tomatoes over the sink and they're so good. Like, we wouldn't have had fresh vegetables this week. Like that, like, if you can hear that and that upsets you, I think you're a weird person. And I think you have some work that needs to get done.
Yeah, I think you need to talk to somebody in the mental health field.
Yeah,
I really do.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
If other people's joy, we've had that too, where people will see our signs and they'll go, well, what about white joy? And you're like, I love white joy. We're not against it,
But why is that your... And I have an interesting background in that I'm of Native American ancestry, but I look white.
Yeah.
And so I get to hear, not so often now because of the circles that I'm in, but for the longest time, I got to hear what the white people say behind closed doors.
Yeah.
And people pretend like that shit doesn't go on.
Yeah.
But that shit goes on.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
They're vocal about it. They're open about it. And you're like, sometimes I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Now I have the power to say something.
Yeah.
I didn't have the power back then.
Yeah.
Because, like, your own safety's at risk.
Yeah.
But now I can call them on that shit.
Yeah,
and,
you're like, what?
Yeah.
And we hear that stuff all the
All
time.
the time.
You're like, this is not a campaign against white joy. We love it. Like, we love to see it.
Mm-hmm.
We just also like joy, and so there's just, we see that a lot, actually, and it's really unfortunate. We see it a lot, and I think people just don't understand, number one, the gravity of their behavior. I think everybody wants to think of themselves as a great person, and when someone is like, hey, that seems a little off or a little biased or a little racist, instead of, saying, yeah, okay, let me learn. A lot of people are so defensive because that word is so egregious, right? Like, it's a nasty word. And, I think I would offer, if somebody is saying that to you, that's pretty intense. Because I think even as a person of color, I don't walk around waiting to be offended. In fact, I work extremely hard to read between the lines, and go, okay, hey, that wasn't very cool, and I'll tell you why, right?
And there's a difference.
There is.
When somebody has that mentality versus the other.
Yeah.
Because, like...
Huge.
It allows the opportunity for change.
Yes.
Because there'll be a lot of times where you don't even realize
that you're saying
something.
Well, because it's ingrained. And it's like, it's work I have to do, right? Like, I'm Black and I still have to go, oh, that's a bias I hold right there. And truthfully, with how things, how bad things have gotten, and how people kind of really have been nasty, in the last 5 years, I've had to go, okay, wait, I'm having bias with white folks and I need to slow my roll. I don't know this person. I have to catch myself constantly, but there's a place of fear that I'm coming from, right? Where I've been assaulted. I've been, like I've gone through those things because of the color of my skin. And so, I feel like for me, sometimes it's more of a reflex, but it is something where I have to really check myself and go, I don't want that bias. That's not something I'm interested in having, regardless of whether I feel like I have to maintain my safety, sure. But we all have to do those things. And so I think the more people understand that, it's not it's a moral failing if you continue it.
100%.
It's not a moral failing to be programmed, to be raised by the environment that you are in. It is a moral failing to continue it.
100%. 100%. And so I want to transition just a minute, because one of the other reasons I had you on today is something that I really just am passionate about and want to learn more, but I don't really know who to talk to about restorative justice.
Me.
So I'm so glad you're here for this, because so many people are impacted by the system in ways that is unrepairable for the rest of their lives. For a minuscule amount of time, which usually has some other underlying causes as to why people act the way they do. And so kind of to help people understand why restorative justice is so important right now.
Restorative justice is important because it's really the channel that we have to help make both people whole. And I think we oftentimes we look at crime and criminality, and we view a lot of that as moral failing. And I will tell you, after working in Oregon State Hospital, juvenile correction settings, being in juvenile corrections myself, having family members that have rap sheets longer than my arm, there is almost always something underneath that, right? And when we go straight to the throw the book at them, number one, you're not getting anything. You're not. As a victim, you may feel safer because that person is now somewhere else. But number one, jail doesn't rehabilitate. That's been proven. It just it doesn't.
Time again.
It in fact causes more trauma and more chaos, and you learn how to be a better criminal from better criminals, right? So that's a thing. But then also, if we just look at this strictly from a financial standpoint, restorative justice makes more sense. So I often ask people this question. Let's say, you're involved in a physical altercation with someone, and they do permanent damage to your body, right? You now need a wheelchair, or you now need whatever. Now this person goes to jail. Before he is even sentenced, he has racked up something like $100,000, $200,000, and this is just processing him, arresting him, making sure he has an attorney, doing all of those things, right? So by the time we get to trial, we could be well over $1 million, right? We could be looking at a ton of money depending on how intricate the case is, how many times it's said over, how many health complications the offender has. I mean, we could be looking at a significant amount of money. So when I ask people this, I go, okay, would you rather that, or would you rather $100,000 goes to housing that person, making sure they're getting mental health treatment, addictions treatment, if that's was a part of the case, figuring out the why, because I can't tell you how many times I hear people go, why? And they want to know why, and they never get an answer to why. So then they just feel consistently unsafe in life, right? You're not getting that. They're just going to jail. And then what if you were the recipient of victims assistance funds? And instead of you paying out of your pocket, for your wheelchair, for your medical expenses, for your treatment, for your, because there is victims assistance funds, but they are minuscule.
They don't pay anything.
They're minuscule.
Yeah.
And to actually receive them, you have to
Congress
jump
almost.
through. Yeah, it's wild. So think about that when we're talking about financially, it's fiscally irresponsible to continue jailing people the way that we do. It's just fiscally not smart. So even if you're just looking at it from that angle, but I think holistically, we're talking about the ability to make both parties as whole as possible and bring people back in to community in a way that makes sense, right? Like, if you have a felony and you can't get a job, what are you going to do? If like this, it just creates this cycle that keeps going. And restorative justice has been around. I mean, Indigenous people practice restorative justice. Black communities have practiced restorative justice. This is not new, right? But for some reason, America is committed to the carceral system. And they are committed to doing it the wrong way. And why, I can't tell you. But I have made it part of my work to try to change some of those things and at the very least, build off-ramps and put funding into places that make sense.
And one of the things that I tell people all the time is I have a personal story in that regard. I was working for an employer, and that employer sent me into a city without a business license, and I got charged with a gross misdemeanor. I was working for somebody.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't know any of these laws or rules or regulations. However, when it came for me to join the military, I could not get a security clearance. And therefore, I could not do a lot of the jobs that I wanted to do. All because I happened to be in a truck with my employer trying to make a sales delivery. And so this whole concept of like people are really bad if they have a criminal record, like, F you, I was trying to provide for my family and I was in a truck
100%.
with a licensed business in the
100%.
state.
And I think that's what's so funny about, well, it's not funny at all, actually, but I think that's what's ironic about what's happening now is people really are like, well, just follow the law. I'm going to be perfectly honest, man. I don't think I know anybody who just follows the law. I don't. And I think any one of us, especially in our youth, which is when most career offenders begin, right? And they don't ask. Like, I remember being in juvenile detention and horrible things were happening to me, right? And do you think ever once they were like, hey, why do you keep running away? No, right? And so I think there's like value in trying to understand the human experience. I think there's value in understanding that people are resilient and they can come back from anything. And then you have these like one size fits all type approaches in a lot of places. Oregon's kind of one with Measure 11. But we really don't ever stop to ask why. Why did this person do this? What's behind it, and do they have the capacity to do better? And everyone has the capacity to do better. It's the question is, do they have the support and the resources?
Yeah.
And that's the other thing is, restorative justice also kind of rights some of those weird wrongs where if it's done correctly, that thing where if you're rich you can kind of get away with everything and if you're poor you're screwed. It kind of helps to, again, when it's done correctly and in mass, it kind of helps to kind of negate that because it puts the power, and this is where I love this, it puts the power in the hands of the person who's been offended against. They get to decide the healing process. They get to decide what makes them whole. Maybe that's financial compensation. Maybe that's replacing something broken. Maybe that's hearing the why, right? Maybe that's that person finishing and completing treatment and becoming a productive member of society. Maybe it's that person healing, right? So that this won't happen again. Because right now we're really just creating a revolving door that doesn't do what's intended.
And one of the worst possible things you can do to a human being is put them in isolation.
100%. It's
And
disgusting.
this idea of you put somebody in jail, you put somebody in prison, and then the punishment is usually a day in solitary or a week in solitary.
Oh, it can be much
And
longer.
It even after a day you need mental health treatment after that.
100%.
It's such a torturous thing.
It's not for humans. It's not for us. And I think that is something that I wish more people understood as well. I mean, here's the thing. If our current system worked, we would be the safest country in America.
100%.
We lock people up at an exponentially higher rate than any other country. We spend more money than any other country on jail and on police. And if it worked, we would feel incredibly safe, no? Like every city, look at almost any city budget. Salem, guys, look at the budget. Police are here. Next are usually corrections, right?
Yeah.
Last I checked on community pages, people are feeling real unsafe. So is that working?
No.
Right.
Definitely not.
Right.
Yeah. I had an interview with a friend of mine, Lauren. She started the Rebel Academy. She used to teach classes in prison to sort of get people degrees, but then realized that the institutions were fighting against her.
Yep.
From providing educational access.
Yes.
And so she started a nonprofit to help people who are recently released from prison, get them with a peer who has gone through the education process so they have a mentor.
I love that.
Because what she was saying is, like, all of the studies are in is that lack of education is a significant piece.
It's a huge piece.
Back.
Well, then if you think about it, if you've done something and now you have a felony, right? You can't get financial aid. You can't get those things, right? So automatically off the rip, you're denied advancement in a lot of ways. In a lot of places, they won't hire you. Like, we're grateful for things like Ban the Box in Portland. Those are the types of things that my organization works on. Because you have to, if you want people to be rehabilitated, let them rehabilitate. And then let them live a life, right? There's like a lifetime punishment. So it's like, oh, I'm going to pay for my crime. I'm going to spend all this time in jail. And also, when we think about this, think about how much the families of these folks are paying as well. These video calls, these text messages, all of those things. They're not paying for dental service. Like, there's services you have to still pay for out of pocket, right? So who's bearing the brunt of this, right? A lot of single mothers are made this way. A lot of the strain on our economy, a lot of, like, we see that food insecurity. I've done work with Oregon Food Bank around this, around criminal justice reform and food access. And the minute a sole provider is taken out of the home, food insecurity is skyrockets, right? So now they're accessing the food bank. Now they're, right? So it literally has a ripple effect throughout our entire community. So we've been and
generational.
Yeah. Oh, generational.
Impacts.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. And it takes generations to climb out of it, right? And we've been doing work on programs like FSAP. So it's family stability. So basically, if you are the only provider for a child or children, and you have, a crime underneath a certain level, there's now programs in certain counties for you to be able to stay with your children. It's a heavier, it's kind of like probation and parole. They do it a little bit heavier. They add, addictions treatment, parenting classes, so they really kind of wrap around you 360, which is what we should be doing when people
100%.
Go there, right? And so there's other programs that we're working on, like the deflection programs. I don't know if you've ever seen the LEAD program in Seattle, but they're doing a magnificent job. And it's something similar where there's an off-ramp to success. Like, okay, hey, you've got a couple of charges, but they're not that deep. We see that there's some success here. How do we give you the support that you need? And what makes these programs so successful is, again, the care, right? It's not somebody telling you, you have to be here, you have to call here, you have to wear this, you have to pay when you can't get a job. You have to be back at 10 when you can't get a ride. Like, it's not punitive. It starts to give a carrot rather than a stick. And when we look at the results of that, they're much better. And when we keep parents with their children, the outcome for the children are better. We stop overburdening our foster care system. So there's so many ways that we have the potential as a state and as a country to just simply do it better.
And the harsh reality that people seem to want to ignore is that, and I don't like to say harsh is not the right word, but the reality is the more people you lift up, the better we all are.
Yeah.
It's really that's simple.
It. And the more people that get healing, I think that's like, people do not account for trauma.
At all.
And the damage and the carnage, quite frankly, that untreated, undiagnosed trauma can cause, and what it can create in a family, what it can create in a city, in a neighborhood, right? Like, I've seen neighborhoods terrorized by this generational trauma. I've seen all of these things, and I think we have to really start considering, do we want to be right or do we want to be well? And I want to be well, right?
Yeah.
I want people to know that they, again, are loved and they are inherently valuable. And I think when people start feeling that they have programs that give them that indicate that, like if you look at the female population, prison population, most of those folks are in jail because they were behind a man and did something foolish, right? Were escaping domestic violence and did something violent. There's a lot of numbers that it's addiction related and domestic violence related for women in particular. So when you think about that, would I punish someone for having cancer? Would I punish someone for having, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
No. No, I wouldn't. And that's what we're talking about here. And also, where did that person grow up to where domestic violence was applicable? Where they were like, yeah, that makes sense to me. That someone treating me that way makes sense to me. We should already know that there's an issue. Right?
And putting the onus on a victim of domestic violence is downright.
It's wild.
It's cruel.
It's wild.
It's downright cruel.
And we see it all the time.
All the time.
All the time, consistently. And even men, like I've worked with a lot of men. I actually taught a class, same thing in the prison. And, I would hear some of their stories. And my heart, oh, my Lanta, my heart would just break. And I would think about what happened to them in relation to what they did. And I would go, you shouldn't be here.
Right?
Somebody should be loving you. So I just want to hug you. You know what I mean? Like, you think about children enduring insane abuse and neglect. And they grow up to be addicts. And then they do things that support their addiction. And then their life is punishment enough. I've been in active addiction, and trust me, it was no picnic. It wasn't fun. I like my life a lot better now. But a lot of that healing came from the recognition that most of that incorrect use and abuse was of substances came from trauma. And when I started to work on that, and when I started to find methods to do that, things didn't seem so hard. Life didn't seem so hard. I wasn't so angry, right? Like, things just got better. And I think we just have to, I think that's a major part of why I do the work I do. Everybody deserves a chance to thrive. And if you've never had one,
and if you've never experienced a challenge like that, right? Like, it's usually the people who are most vocal against it don't understand.
Right.
Because, like, if you just follow the pieces, it just seems to me like a no-brainer.
Yeah.
And because, like, one of the things that you sort of touched on that I kind of want to circle back on is from the offender piece.
Yeah.
right? Because if somebody has gone through the restorative justice sort of program, the chances of them reoffending or becoming recidivism, I guess is the term they use, is almost zero, right?
It's really low. It's very low. And you have to think though too, it's how they get the support, who they get it from. So a lot of the time we're talking about having culturally specific services, right? So if you're indigenous, are you going to a sweat? Right? Do you have access to what's culturally the norm? He might kill me for saying it, but my son got into a little bit of trouble, and what we did was I gathered my women, I gathered my prayer warriors, man, and we sat around my son and prayed over him, told him how wonderful he was, right? And hey, you've got this. You're gonna be okay. This is gonna be hard. But you are loved and you are wonderful, and that mistake does not define you. And he's probably doing the best he's ever done. I couldn't be more proud of the kid. And I think that's really what it takes, is having that, having that support, but also it's about how much access to resource do you have as well?
Because it seems to me like a lot of the times we're pointing resources at those things that are doing more harm than good.
Yeah.
And
100%.
especially in the legal realm.
100%.
Because like I remember I used to work in the child welfare realm, and one of the things that would frustrate me about the legal system is the lack of access for treatment and mental health. Like there's almost not enough mental health for people who are insured and are working every day, let alone mental health for people who really need it. Right. Yeah. And until we can sort of shift the focus of our financial system to embrace more mental health opportunities, I don't know if we're going to change anything.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if we're going to change anything as long as people are making profit off of jailing people. Because I mean, you can think about it like this too. Even let's say even if you have the money, you can make bail. Most places that I've seen, most jails will keep you overnight because then they can charge for the day. Yeah. Right. And so we're seeing cities. There's a lot of cities actually in Oregon. There's a few where their whole economy is propped up by prison. There's a lot. And if you look at the way that our infrastructure is set up statewide, who do you think is cleaning our state parks? Yeah. Juveniles in detention. Who do you think is, like, when you look at who does the work, the maintenance on our highways, folks in prison. When we look at who's making the meals and doing the laundry for Oregon State Hospital,
fighting fires
and when you look at that, financially, we stand to lose a lot by not incarcerating people. It's going to be a really tough thing. I mean, I think it was only in 2021 or 2022 that they took slavery out of the Oregon Constitution. And one of the reasons for that, obviously, is because we want to try, if you're going to be there and you're going to be doing this work, right? And like jails have contracts, prisons have contracts with major corporations. So you think everything, you're talking to someone, in an office, they're in prison answering the phone. Right? So when we think about this and we think about that, the fact that they're making like $4 an hour or something like that, there's a lot to lose. It's a big business to screw people over. It's big business to keep people incarcerated.
And that's not even to include the actual private prisons.
Right. And we don't even have private prisons. We're just running our state off the back of it. Yeah.
Not a week goes by that I don't recognize how messed up Oregon is. Oh yeah. At the same time, probably
we're actually pretty blessed.
Yeah. To live in. Like,
we're really I don't
want to live anywhere else.
I've been arguing with people about this because they're mad about the 6-cent tax thing, and I'm like, baby, do you realize what a terrible place we could be in? And it's just not that bad. We have actually a reserve. We have like certain things where there's other states are literally bankrupt. So I we are jacked up. But we've also made a lot of forward progress. And it's actually unfortunate because in the last like year and a half or so, all of this like tough on crime, you know, we were really making a lot of headway. We were almost dead last in access to mental health treatment and behavioral health treatment, addiction services. And people don't know this, but Measure 110 actually allocated like $500 million, and the access went up by 300%. So now we've recriminalized though, and we're trying to hang on to those funds, right? And there was just a real misunderstanding of what that law did. And I think law enforcement fed into that. I think obviously folks who want to lock folks up fed into that, and used kind of trauma porn to do it. They always use the worst of the worst stories, when that's not 99% of what's happening. Yeah.
I always shake my head because it's like, especially like if you have a family who needs to steal food,
Right.
because they don't have
No, they
food.
don't. I didn't see anything.
The reason I bring it up is because like that's a sign that we need to do more for people in need.
Yeah, give
that
them the
shouldn't be
food.
a sign that says, "Oh, let's lock more people up."
Right.
Like I don't understand that whole mentality. Of
Well, I mean,
lock people up.
here's a good. I've been looking at this. Take a look at what's happening recently, right? So SNAP benefits and the government shutdown, all of that. Everybody looked like they were real giving, right? And this just goes to show you we could have been doing this all along, right?
100%.
We could be doing this the whole time. So I've seen Safeway, all of a sudden, I thought you had to throw that away. I thought it was the law, right? All of a sudden now there's huge donations when they see that it causes people to shop there, right? When it looks like you have a heart. We're seeing fast food restaurants. Oh, well, there's a free meal if you're an EBT parent, right, for your child. This has been possible. And I think it's even funnier because a lot of those places are like, round up to help us help. You're a billionaire, man. I'm a single mom. You round up, and not that I don't want to help. I'm a helper. But at the same time, like, we're starting to see that these imaginary things that we've been told about what works and why things are just bullshit. It's just smoke and mirrors, to be honest. We're seeing that this is possible. We're seeing that you could have done these things.
And it's very interesting because in that regard too, like I used to work for the Restaurant Association back in the day, and it was interesting because there was an active effort of lobbying from a couple of organizations that will go unnamed that really tried to stop supermarkets from being able to give the food at the end of the day. Yeah. And so there are entities out there that are pushing back against the fact that, we have food that we can give out there. Yeah. But there's limitations on how and why they can't.
I mean, to circle back to what we started with, to be poor is expensive.
Yeah.
It's very spendy. And people don't really, I don't think people understand that. Like, if I can't go to the dentist right away, well, it's not going to be $150 cleaning. I'm going to end up paying $5,000, right, when my tooth breaks. So when we're looking at the way that we are moving in society, look at, there are countries in Europe, and mind you, they had to go through all kinds of hell to get it together and realize this, but there are countries that pay you to go to the doctor. There are countries that want to see you well because they understand that if you're thriving, I am thriving, right? They realize they've had their let them eat cake moment, and it doesn't work. We cannot sustain this level of depravity. No one can. We just can't. And we're seeing that in our balance books in states across the country. We're seeing that on folks' back, and we're seeing that in our communities. And we're going to continue to see it the worse this gets, to be honest.
I couldn't agree more. And this idea, I thought I chuckled a little bit when you talked about this idea of billionaires to begin with, because like it just. I heard on the other day, what was it, Mark Cuban, in an interview trying to justify why billionaires need to exist. And his worldview, and I'm not going to put words in his mouth, but go take that listen and come back to me and say maybe billionaires might not be a best option for this country. Because like this whole idea of trickle down, if that actually works.
Nothing ever trickles.
Nothing ever trickles.
Nothing trickles.
No. There's a reason why CEO pay went from 30%,
100%,
30 times. Now it's 300 times.
Yeah.
So the CEOs and the managers and the wealthy elite keep getting more and more of the pie.
Yeah.
And leaving people being stuck in the bottom. Yeah. But I heard a recent report, like 1 in 4 can't afford a $500 surprise bill. Yeah. 25% of us.
A lot of the people I know can't afford. I mean, I don't know why, but for the last 2 months, I'll tell you, I have just been hemorrhaging money, and I don't know. Just things keep coming up, right? Yeah. And again, I felt like, okay, I feel like I'm an adult. I got this. I don't know, man. And I think that's the thing is like, at this point, you cannot really reach a place of security, and it just doesn't exist. And so I think that's like really, we're seeing just a class warfare where people, they want you to be impoverished and dependent upon whatever they're going to give you, whatever they're going to throw to you. And I think that's making, it's making it hard, like 33% of our housing market is owned by corporations. That makes no sense in a housing crisis to even allow that. I can't even tell you how many Airbnbs are in Portland. Read the room. We don't need another Airbnb. We don't. What we do need is housing. And I mean, even if you look at that, right? So even that is a business. I'm not going to say the number because it would piss you off, but look at how much Portland spends on sweeps. We do the same thing here in Salem. It would cost less to just house people. It would cost less. And, like we talk about, we'll use something local, like Wallace Marine Park, right? They have dumpsters. There is, I don't know how many pounds of garbage because people have nowhere to live. And instead of the city doing the simple thing, which would be to provide toilets, places to throw away garbage, right? Yeah. They keep them out of it. So they are banned from using these like things that make sense. So if you're not going to help house someone, if we're not going to be doing the thing and using the funds for what we ought to be using the funds for, at the very least, why haven't we thought about how many open fields do you drive by?
A lot.
Right? Why can't we hire 1 or 2 people to hang out, make sure that there's a safe use location so people aren't overdosing? Why can't we make sure that there's a garbage and garbage service? Why is that? Let's think. No one wants to live like that. Nobody. And I don't care what you're on.
And I would argue that anybody who lives in a house or an apartment takes for granted the 100%. Garbage service that you have. 100%. And how we would all be like that.
If you didn't have a house. No garbage. That's why people are so upset about open use. Do you know how many people are doing drugs in their house? No, nobody's concerned about that because guess what? They're in their house. Yeah. So I think that's the other thing we have to like really look at is like, why are we using our funds this way? What is the purpose of this? What is the purpose of, Salem PD or whatever having what did they buy in 2020? My God, a tank. What are we doing? You know how much that tank could do in our city? Yeah. That's wild. And we're fighting over taxes to pay for a library. And you have a tank? For what? Mm-hmm. The people of Salem? For what?
Yeah, and I have two wild ideas in regards to housing. One, if you really want to invest in home ownership, cap everybody that if it's your primary residence, and you're buying a house, your interest rate is capped at 2.25%.
Love it.
Everybody across the board.
Lord knows I would have just loved it. I just got a house, and my God.
Right?
Yeah.
But if you're in venture capital, you got to pay the market rent 7%, whatever.
Yeah.
That would incentivize mortgage loans
Yes.
to people who live in the houses.
Yep.
And then the other one is I would love to see like a co-location condominium for people who are poor.
Yeah.
Right? Where the city owns half and you invest half. So you have to come up with a $40,000 mortgage for an $80,000 condo.
And I've seen like co-ops like this. I visited one. Where was I? In Montana. And it was the coolest thing. And it actually was just a co-op between the people. Like the city didn't own it, but the people who lived in the apartment, they co-opted and they had a land trust. And so I've actually been looking into how to do some of that here in Oregon. It's a really hard thing and it's a tough process, especially because people haven't really seen it here. Yeah. But I'm sure it's happening somewhere because Oregon's weird and wonderful. But there's so many possibilities. Like, again, how many buildings do we drive by that are just sitting there empty? That could be retrofitted for a dorm type situation or whatever. Like, it doesn't need to be like people are going to do drugs, man. Like, that's just, people are hurting. And at the very least, if you can't offer them treatment, if you can't offer them help, if you can't offer them love, at the very least, we can meet basic needs. And I don't care what anybody says. Drugs should not be a death sentence. It shouldn't be, it shouldn't be something that bars you from living life, or experiencing kindness. It's very weird to me, the assumptions that people make about addicts. And it's also very weird to me how, honestly, when a lot of people get clean, you would think their heart would be like, oh, I'm for the addict. And they're like, no, I got a nudge from a judge. You can do better. It's like, not everybody is you, man, and that doesn't work for everybody. People have to sort things out in their own time. And that's what we also know is like by data, convincing someone coerced treatment doesn't work.
100%. Yeah.
So keep people alive until they get to a place. And you know what makes people want to live?
Wanting to live.
Having a place to live, having food, having people care for them, having a reason to show up.
Not stressing all night long about whether or not you can afford rent next month.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's the little things that are so important. And yet it seems like those little things are getting more and more unattainable.
Absolutely.
Like the only reason I have a house now is because my rent was going up again. And it's like, okay, so I'm paying rent to this person that doesn't, I don't want to say the word slumlord, but their maintenance person was awesome. Yeah. They never did any of the maintenance. They would complain about this, and then you're like, oh, you have to use this system to report this.
Right. Yeah.
And then you use that system, and that system's down. And so it's like it's this never-ending
cycle
fun. Of like, okay, I'm without heat.
Well, and people know they get a shit on you too.
Yeah.
So that's becoming more prevalent is not having good landlords. Yeah. Because where are you going to go?
Yeah.
You don't have any money to move.
And the landlord asking me, I need to know your next address.
No, you don't.
Like, no, you don't. But I know you want to know why, because you want to call the landlord and let them know how much of a problem I was.
Yeah. You're like, no, you don't. Yeah, I think I was in a similar situation. And truthfully, I wouldn't have just bought a home if me and my best friend didn't go in on it together. Yeah. Like, we found a house where there was a studio on the bottom and a house on the top, and that just worked for us, right? And I don't think I would have, it would have been much smaller. My daughters would have not enjoyed it. But that, again, community, finding somebody, you can't do it alone. How can we do it together?
100%. Yeah. and it's one of those things where more and more people have to come together as community just to be able to get into housing to begin with.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's an interesting phenomenon too, is one of the things about like housing in particular, because I heard a couple of people telling me about like they're electing not to take food assistance and then wondering why they can't get an apartment. And I try to tell them, well, it's because they're counting your food assistance as income. And so everyone else competing for that apartment, because they're on food assistance,
Right.
they have that apartment first because they have the extra $42 a month in income.
I mean, and also, like, you know, who I can almost guarantee you the managers of these places are not making 3 times the rent. You know what I mean? So I think some of that too is just like, what are we talking about here? What are we doing? And there's just so much of a better way. And so for me, you know, obviously I work in legislation. It's important to me. At the same time, again, I also firmly believe nobody is coming to save us. Like, we are going to have to figure out how to do some of this on our own. There will come a time where we have to keep the mechanism alive, right? Do I believe that it works? No, not well, or maybe actually it's working as it was intended. But, you know, I think there's going to come a time where you can't get blood from a turnip, right?
Yep.
And we're rapidly approaching that.
Faster and faster with every month.
Yeah, it's like Mach speed, you know? And so I think people are just going to have to really understand the importance of figuring out, how do we help our neighbors? How do we figure this out? And I think a lot of those people that are, you know, pull yourself up by the bootstraps, they're going to find themselves in some weird places. And, you know, strange bedfellows, usually, like I said, context breeds compassion.
100%. Yeah. And as that wealth gap increases, more and more people in the middle are starting to sign like,
oh, wait.
What's going on?
You're like, I'm not in the middle.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yep.
Well, we have been at this for well over an hour.
Thank you so much.
No problem. This has been a joy.
Thank you.
Yeah. And so I want to wrap up our conversation with something real quick. Yeah. Because one of the things that I appreciate about your nonprofit is that aspect of joy. Mm-hmm. And have you seen increased sort of like acceptance from the community as you've progressed with this organization?
Honestly, we've always had a lot of love.
Good.
We've always been, I mean, everybody has haters, you know what I mean? But it's really hard to argue with joy. I think, you know, you've got your randos, but it's really hard to argue with somebody who wants good for you. And so, you know, like, you can try it, but it doesn't last very long. And so I think we've always had like a really good level of support. And as we've grown, you know, we're still there. We're still there. Yeah.
And where can people go to find more information?
Yeah, you can find us on Facebook. You can find us on TikTok, I think. I don't have a lot of these socials. Somebody else does that for us. But Instagram. We also have a website, www.blackjoyorgan.com or .org. .something. We'll figure it out. And yeah.
Perfect. And I'll end the show the way I always end the show. Be kind, people.
Please.
We all live in the same air. We breathe the same air. And this world would just be a better place if we treated everybody with respect and dignity.
Amen. Amen. Thank you for having me.